From Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana, Siddiqui. First, the headlines. Biden vows to defend Taiwan militarily if China invades it. Over 900 Americans, including Biden, banned from entering Russia. U.S. military flight brings tons of baby formula from Germany. Right-wing Hindu claims on monuments, mosques raise fears in India. Global food insecurity at 2008 financial crisis levels. Morocco launches media award in honor of slain journalist. Our top story tonight. On Monday, President Joe Biden warned that the U.S. would defend Taiwan militarily in case of an attack by China, drawing a direct analogy to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Biden signaled the more confrontational approach to China as his administration is embroiled in wide-ranging efforts to beat back aggression by Russia. Speaking to reporters during his first trip to Asia as president, Biden said the United States would defend Taiwan despite the U.S. policy of remaining vague on the subject. He said deterring Beijing from aggression in Taiwan and elsewhere was why it was critical to punish Russian President Vladimir Putin for his barbarism in Ukraine. A White House official said Biden's comments simply reiterated a 1979 pledge that the U.S. would provide Taiwan the military means for self-defense. On Saturday, Russia announced it has barred 963 Americans from entering the country, including U.S. President Joe Biden and top administration officials. The decision is part of what the Russian Foreign Ministry said are retaliatory measures to anti-Russian sanctions imposed by the U.S. The ministry published the full national stop list, which includes Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. CIA Chief William Burns and FBI Director Christopher Wray also made the list. Russia said it has been forced to take such countermeasures because the U.S. is attempting to impose a neo-colonial rules-based world order on the rest of the world. They are aimed at compelling the U.S. government to change its behavior by acknowledging new geopolitical realities. On Sunday, a U.S. military plane carrying several tons of much-needed baby formula from Germany arrived at an airport in Indiana. Authorities have been scrambling to address a critical nationwide formula shortage, prompting emergency action from lawmakers in the White House. The scarcity of medical-grade baby formula is caused by production problems and supply chain issues. It has created problems for thousands of parents whose infants rely on it. Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and 25 other House Democrats on Friday called for a federal probe of the nation's concentrated baby formula industry. Democrats urged the Federal Trade Commission to investigate any unfair or unsustainable practices, such as deceptive marketing, price gouging, and stock buybacks. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, found in favor of a Michigan Muslim woman who claimed discrimination when she was fired from her job in 2019. The Michigan chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations filed the EEOC complaint on behalf of the woman. The commission's finding in the case came down last Wednesday. CARE Michigan Executive Director Daoud Walid said he hopes the woman's then-employer, GDI Integrated Facility Services, will rectify the harm done. According to CARE Michigan, the woman had asked for a delayed lunch break to accommodate her fast during Ramadan. GDI Integrated Facility Services contracts to clean office buildings in several Michigan cities. A company spokesperson could not immediately be reached for comment. A three-part documentary series, The Great Muslim American Road Trip, follows a young couple as they explore America's Mother Road. Rapper Mona Haidar and husband Sebastian Robbins will drive the 2,500-mile Route 66 while exploring its surrounding Muslim communities from Chicago to Los Angeles. Haidar is Syrian-American and Robbins is a white American convert to Islam. Both are practicing Muslims. The couple, like most Americans, is unfamiliar with Islam's deep roots in America. The road trip will help them learn more about the history of their faith and what it means to be Muslim in America today. The Great Muslim American Road Trip premieres July 5th on PBS. The Muslim community in Buffalo has launched a fundraiser for the victims of the Tops Friendly Market shooting last week. An 18-year-old white supremacist is accused of killing 10 African Americans at the Buffalo, New York grocery store, authorities say. The shooter was motivated by a right-wing conspiracy known as white replacement theory, according to authorities. It claims white people are under attack by blacks, Jews, and immigrants. Peyton Gendron traveled hundreds of miles to target Buffalo's black community and live-streamed the attack on Twitch, authorities said. Muslim residents have so far raised more than $18,000 of a $25,000 goal through the Launch Good fundraiser. Beit Mal al-Quds Agency has launched its first ever Journalistic Excellence Award in honor of Shireen Abu Akleh. According to Al Jazeera, where she worked for over 2 decades, as well as eyewitnesses, an Israeli soldier shot and killed Abu Akleh during a May 11th raid in the occupied West Bank. This was despite the veteran Al Jazeera reporter being identifiable through her uniform as a member of the press. Beit Mal al-Quds Agency is a field arm of the Al-Quds Committee. Its goal is protecting Jerusalem and its Muslim holy sites. It was established in 1975 and is chaired by the King of Morocco. Right-wing Hindus claiming monuments and mosques in India. Details after the break. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Billboards are popping up all over the country with an...
Our neighbors don't realize that Muslims are absolutely opposed to ISIS.
Salam. My name is Abdul Malik Mujahid. I'm an imam in Chicago.
16 shots! No me!
No justice!
No me!
So how do we bring up the energy which can really have an impact on the world?
You need to build bridges of understanding among people, and we need to have America moving forward.
That lesson learned has brought the strength of humanity to America, which is the diversity.
Mujahid Talks, only on Muslim Network TV. Faithfully connected.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Bika from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe, and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
Welcome back. In 1992, Hindu extremists demolished the historic Babri Masjid in Ayodhya, which they claimed was the birthplace of the Hindu god Rama. Now, right-wing Hindus are claiming their god Krishna was born in a 17th century Shahi Eidgah Masjid in the city of Mathura in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Niranjan Sahu is senior fellow at the New Delhi-based think tank Observer Research Foundation. He said the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party's recent electoral victory has emboldened right-wing elements in India. This latest controversy helps the ruling party deflect from real issues of inflation, price rise, and rising unemployment, he said, speaking to Andalu Agency. Since 1984, the BJP has risen from holding 2 seats in India's lower house of parliament to 120 seats in 1996. Sahu said this was facilitated by religious polarization on the back of the Ayodhya movement of the 1990s. Just weeks ago, a ruling party leader claimed that the Taj Mahal is a Hindu temple as well. Leading media outlets, mainly in North America and Europe, are using images of black people alongside stories of the monkeypox outbreak. The Foreign Press Association Africa, a pan-African nonprofit membership organization for journalists covering the continent, objected to the racist association. The group noted the media should be on the front line fighting systemic racism and racial stereotypes by sharing positive images and narratives. FPAA criticized European and North American media outlets for using stock images of persons with dark or black and African skin complexion to depict the outbreak. The group condemned the perpetuation of the negative stereotype that assigns calamity to the African race and privilege or immunity to other races. A Pentagon report claims ISIS in Afghanistan will likely develop the capability to target the U.S. within the next 12 to 18 months. Known as ISIS-K, the terrorist group has grown stronger and recruited more fighters since U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan last August, U.S. Central Command said. The report released Tuesday by the Defense Department Inspector General did not elaborate on how the group might target America. Its growth comes as the U.S. military's ability to track and stop threats in Afghanistan are significantly reduced, military officials said in the report. The Taliban agreed to prevent terrorists from using Afghan soil to threaten America in the deal that secured the withdrawal of U.S. and allied troops. But the government is finding it difficult to contain ISIS-K's estimated 2,000 members, the report said. Palestinians are condemning a U.S. decision to remove the radical Jewish Kach group from the list of terror organizations. On Friday, the U.S. Department of State removed 5 extremist groups from its list of foreign terrorist organizations, including the Kach movement. The Ramallah-based Palestinian Authority called the U.S. decision a reward for the operatives of this terrorist organization. The U.S. administration's actions contradict its words and don't fit with its commitments to peace and stability, the statement read. The Palestinian Authority called on the U.S. administration to reverse its move and take a historic decision to remove the Palestine Liberation Organization from its list of terrorist organizations. Global food insecurity has reached levels not seen since the financial crisis of 2008, a food insecurity expert told the United Nations Security Council this week. And it will likely only get worse without aggressive intervention, said Sarah Menker, CEO of Grow Intelligence. Russia's invasion of Ukraine added fuel to the long-standing food security crisis, she said. Menker's company uses artificial intelligence and public and private data to predict food supply trends. Menker said the crisis isn't cyclical, this is seismic. Even if the war ended tomorrow, the food insecurity problem isn't going away anytime soon without concerted action, she added. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Imam Malik Mujahid in Chicago. Just like you, I was moved by that Allahu Akbar lady. She stood her ground, fearful of none, for her hijab and for her education. Sisters and brothers, Indian Muslims are facing a genocide. India does not care for Muslim protesting, but it does care for the world opinion. Therefore, we must push the United Nations. The UN has a responsibility to protect. They must prevent genocide. Please sign this UN petition now. Get others to sign. It will help. Trust me, it will help. We need 1 million signatures, brothers and sisters. Please sign now.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
We are justice for all.
Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
Welcome back. To discuss the bullying of Muslim students in schools, let's go to Edward Ahmed Mitchell. Over to you, Edward.
Thank you, Samana. And now we move on to a discussion of a problem that has plagued our society, and in particular, American Muslims for years, and that is the issue of school bullying. We know that kids in pretty much every school and every school district experience some form of bullying, but what we've seen in particular is that Muslim students are some of the top targets of bullying, with often disastrous results. To discuss this today, let's bring on our special guest, attorney Barbara Dougan, who is the legal director of CARE Massachusetts. Good afternoon, Barbara. How are you?
Good afternoon, Edward. Delighted to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. So, Barbara, first, let me ask you this. You know, when people think of Massachusetts, they often think of a place that's, very progressive and liberal, and there couldn't possibly be a significant problem with school bullying going on in that state. Is that accurate? Give us the lay of the land, what society is like in Massachusetts for Muslim American students.
Well, I will say it may be better than in some states, but certainly we've got our problem, and I don't think that's all across the country.
Now, Barbara, tell us about the work CARE Massachusetts has done to try to survey and monitor what Muslim students are experiencing in terms of bullying in schools.
Sure. I mean, you really can't discuss what's going on unless you measure it to some degree. So in 2019 and 2020, we did a survey project to ask Muslim students grades 6th through 12th grade what sort of experiences they were having in their schools. I believe it was about 163 students answered our survey. So our results are based on that group. We're not saying that this is, that we have a read on everything that's going on, but we did get a good sense, I think, from the students who did answer our survey, which we then issued a report in 2021 summarizing our results, suggesting strategies for both parents and students for dealing with these issues in their schools, reminding people about Massachusetts' very good anti-bullying law, and then telling people how they can advocate for themselves, as well as obviously calling our office for assistance.
So, Barbara, of that 163 students that you all were able to survey, give us the highlights of what was indicated. Was bullying a major problem, minor problem, somewhere in between? And were there any common examples of types of bullying? For example, is it mostly student on student, staff on student? Give us some highlights.
Sure. I would call them lowlights, I'm afraid. There was 163 students who responded to our survey. We saw, sadly enough, that about 60% of the students who responded said that they had been bullied due to their religion. There were also questions, I won't get into some of the details about bullying based on your national origin, race, and gender, but this was about specifically being bullied due to your religion. And again, about 60% of the students said they had experienced that. It ranged from verbal abuse, taunting, name calling, slurs, to vandalism, to physical assaults. The one that jumps out at us is that what was reported by about a third of the students who answered was that, and these would all be obviously young women or girls, was that someone had either tried to pull off their hijab or had succeeded in pulling off their hijab. I mean, to me, that's assault and battery. And it was, sadly enough, not that rare.
Yeah, sadly, that is something that we've seen in states across the country. Did your survey get any read on how school officials, teachers, administrators have been responding to these bullying incidents? Do students feel like they're being protected and heard and taken care of, or did you identify any problems there in your survey?
It's mixed results. I should back up and say that Massachusetts has a very good anti-bullying law, which requires each school district to formulate and to publicize its policy for both the prevention of bullying as well as intervention after it takes place. And that intervention is supposed to address the needs of the bullied or the targeted student, as well as appropriate discipline for the aggressor, which can in fact include some sort of needed services if a child is really acting out. So the responses that we saw was that it's really mixed. Sometimes the schools will take this sort of thing seriously, deal with it promptly, which is really always the best way to handle these things. But other times it was not taken seriously. Oh, that's just a prank. And occasionally the aggressors were actually teachers or staff who would oftentimes, in those incidents, humiliate the student in front of their class by making remarks about fasting during Ramadan. If a young man grew a beard, saying he looked like a terrorist, and making really inappropriate remarks that reflect their ignorance, but also hostility sometimes towards Islam.
That is disturbing, to say the least. So, Barbara, what about some of your recommendations for how to address this issue, and especially any recommendations that might be relevant to other communities and states across the country, recommendations they might want to pursue with their own local school districts?
Sure. I mean, I think we have a good starting point with a state law that requires schools to put some thought into what their policy is going to look like and what they're going to do if this happens. If you're in a community where each incident is just handled, in some ad hoc manner, that's going to be a lot tougher. So I think some sort of overarching policy, either through the district or a statewide law, is critical. What we then think is probably the most important thing is to inform parents about what their options are. Obviously, someone who's experiencing bullying of their child or an older student himself, herself, could call a lawyer, but there's only so many lawyers, and we'd rather see parents and students empowered to deal with a lot of this on their own. They know what's happening. They're close to the ground. So to tell them about what their rights are, the procedures to follow so that they can be effective advocates for their children and get the sort of results they need to keep their children safe.
So, Barbara, last question to you. What's the danger, short-term and long-term, to students? Because, some people might say, look, bullying in school is just part of life. Whether you're short, you're tall, you're in between, you're fat, you're skinny, in between, you're black, you're white, whatever. Kids will always find something to pick on you about. And kids just have to deal with it and grow up. Can you respond to that? What's the danger to students, the short-term and long-term danger when they experience this type of bullying and it's not addressed?
Yeah, great question. I mean, there's so many times you do get that response. There's many things in this world that are wrong, and just because they've gone on for a long time doesn't mean they should continue to go on. But there's both, professional studies as well as what we've heard ourselves from bullied students about the toll that it takes. I mean, imagine being a student who has to run a gauntlet of, slurs, intimidation, and physical assaults to go to school every single day. I mean, it's hard to imagine the toll that must take. The studies tell us that students can and do become suicidal as a result of this sort of relentless and ongoing abuse. We have heard from students themselves, oftentimes when they're a little older and have passed beyond this time in their lives, about how they did think about self-harm, which is just stunning that there is that, but not surprising, I guess, that there is that sort of terrible psychic toll that's taken on. We're talking about children. We're talking about youngsters who don't yet have coping mechanisms, and they're trying to navigate this system sometimes on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Well, Barbara, I want to thank you for the work that you all are doing in Massachusetts to monitor this problem, to document it, and to respond to it. And it's something that I think people can take inspiration from across the country. And again, I think people have to keep in mind, you're in Massachusetts, right? Which if you're dealing with this problem, then everyone's dealing with this problem in one way.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you, Barbara, for your time today. And I'll see you back at the office, so to speak, God willing. But thank you for joining Muslim Network TV.
Right.
Until next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And back to you, Samana.
Thank you, Edward. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.